Well, it definitely wasn't a C show this time, I think it's safe to say. Crown Jewel is in the books. Crown Jewel was a very good show. Crown Jewel is more like in the B+ range. I would say if the last show was a C, this is definitely in the range of a B+. Because I enjoyed this show. I enjoyed largely this show off the back of one match in particular, which was John Cena and AJ Styles. You removed that match from this card, and I'm not going to be so generous. It was still a good show, but not nearly as good if you took that match out. And I will point out to you, because I think it's worth pointing out, that since his return to being a babyface, after that failed heel run at the beginning of the year, John Cena, right before SummerSlam, right, went back to being a babyface again. And here's a guy who, and I will admit, because I was one of these people who was saying it, when John Cena would show up on occasion to do a match over the last few years, when John Cena would come in and have, a singles match at WrestleMania with Austin Theory a couple years ago, you hear things like, oh, he's washed. That's it. He doesn't have it anymore. He can't go anymore. The man is washed, right? For a guy who was washed, I will point out to you that John Cena has stolen the show on 3 of the last 4 PLEs. So that doesn't sound like a guy who's washed to me. It sounds like a guy who still has it within him to pull out something very special if the circumstances are right, and if he has the right dance partner in the ring with him. He proved that at SummerSlam. He proved it in Paris with Logan Paul, because they had the best match on that show. And he proved it tonight at Crown Jewel with AJ Styles, because these two men went out there and they had a fantastic match. They rekindled a lot of that old chemistry that they had when they began their feud back in 2016. And if you really look at all of the matches they had prior to this show, they have never had a bad match before. Never. From the very first match that they had at Money in the Bank until that very last big PLE match they had at the Royal Rumble where Cena won number 16, and even the television match on SmackDown the year after that. Every single time these two get in the ring together, they put on an absolute masterclass in the ring. You just have certain opponents that can bring the best out of you. That's what we got with John Cena and CM Punk. That's what we got many times with John Cena and Edge. Right? You didn't always get it, but with the right person, AJ Styles was that person. I will also point out to you that, and I was actually a little surprised. I don't recall the announcers even mentioning this. They mentioned it on TV during the week, but I don't think they mentioned this on the show, and they certainly didn't when the match was over. This was John Cena's 100th PLE win. So he now sits in second place all time in WWE, second only to The Undertaker with 107. And obviously, he's not going to pass The Undertaker because John Cena has, I guess, 1 PLE left. Unless you count Saturday night's main event as a premium live event, which I don't. He's only got 1 left, and that is Survivor Series. Actually, John Cena only has 4 dates left in general. And that is it. That is it. So much time wasted on that heel run. I mean, we're going to look back on it, and there'll be the post-mortem and everything once Cena's actually done. But I'll tell you what, this last leg of the retirement tour, I am greatly enjoying it. I only wish we had more time and we could have made better use of this year. But this was a match I was hoping to get when they first announced that he was going to be going on this retirement tour. And everyone makes their list, the top 5, top 10 people you want to see him in the ring with. And I don't know that there would have been a single person who wouldn't have had AJ Styles on that list. So I'm very happy we got the match. We got a lot of callbacks in this match. We got a lot of people who were honored, I guess you would say, by either Cena or AJ. Past foes of theirs. Because remember, John Cena is not the only one whose career is coming to an end very soon. AJ Styles has already made it very clear he is done in the year 2026. He made it very clear in Australia again this week. So to see him making, or putting together these moves to pay respect to people like Sting and Samoa Joe, and then you see John Cena in there paying homage to all the men that he's not going to be able to step into the ring with because there's not enough time left, whether it's Rusev or whether it's The Miz or whoever it is, only added to the match. It was just a really enjoyable 27 minutes, I want to say. Now, Contrast that with another match on the show that went about as long and actually a little bit longer than the Cena and AJ match. And that match, when it was over, I felt like there was no reason for that match to be as long as it was. Right? You could tell the level of enjoyment I had for each of these matches. You had the Cena match where the thought never crossed my mind of, oh, this match is going a little too long, as compared to the main event, which was not a bad match. But that match, I definitely felt like there was no reason for this match to be going 30 minutes, which is what it went. Seth Rollins is your Crown Jewel champion for 2025. Last year it was Cody. This year it's Seth. Nobody should be surprised by that. They came into this match. Seth Rollins was in a 0 for 3 hole. Right now, if this were the Red Sox, let's say, of 2004 with the Yankees, yeah, you would expect them. They're going to climb out of that hole and make history. I mean, who could have predicted that? But you look at the numbers here, and it's just like, what does Cody Rhodes have to gain by beating Seth Rollins? Absolutely nothing, right? The outcome here was preordained from the moment they announced the match. But they tried to wrap it around this story of Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman and self-doubt creeping in, and I have to win. I must win. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed going to Paul Heyman and saying, well, what happens if Seth loses? And Heyman telling Rollins, right, the other week, you want to know what happens if you lose? You lose the respect of your peers. You lose the respect of your fellow Vision members. They no longer believe in the vision that you are putting forth. And they want you to believe that a Seth Rollins loss here could be catastrophic for this faction. It could very well be the end of the Vision. But you had to know coming in, this was not going to be the end of the Vision. In fact, it only made sense that this night would make the Vision even stronger, which meant Seth Rollins had to win. And it meant that Bronson Reed had to win his match against Roman Reigns. Because what a loser he would look like had he come in and lost his second straight PLE match to Roman Reigns. And I'm happy to say they did the right thing. And in fact, Bronson Reed did come out of this show on the winning end of things. But we'll get into all the different matches here. Of course, we also had Rhea Ripley and Io Sky against Asuka and Kairi Sane. That story's been playing itself out now for several months on WWE television. And I mentioned Bronson Reed, the biggest win of his career on this show. And then we had another Crown Jewel Championship match with the women, Stephanie Vaquer, Tiffany Stratton. Unlike the Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins match, which was actually coming into this show, had the best story. It had the richest history of any of the matches on this show, which is kind of funny now that I look back at this, that we're talking about this 5-match PLE, right, a Triple H special. And of all the matches on the card, the match that I enjoyed the most, and to me, inarguably the best match on the entire show, was the one that had absolutely no story. I mean, they have a history together, but that's not the story. There's no story about this match. They decided to put together a match between these two guys knowing that, yeah, I'm sure Cena wanted to work with him, but they put this match together because, they wanted to put together this dream match that they could promote for the show. Cena never appeared once on television. We have not seen John Cena at all since he got destroyed by Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. They just announced the match. But that was the best thing on the entire show. Now, Stephanie Vaquer and Tiffany Stratton, no story there whatsoever. We have this Crown Jewel Championship, which is bigger than most of the women they have on the fucking roster. And we have the champion on one brand facing the champion on the other brand for an even bigger belt that we will not see again for another 365 days. Not much to it, really. Not a bad match, but not a whole lot to it. And definitely not something that anybody is going to go back and have the hankering to go watch again. But when the show was over, I felt like there was nothing bad on the show. And there's one thing that is going to be memorable. If there's one thing that I do think people are going to go back and relive and watch over time, it is the Cena AJ match. Everything else on the show really just felt mostly inconsequential and not particularly memorable. And that was really the story of Crown Jewel. I thought it was an enjoyable 3 hours. It was really all about one match, but it was better than WrestlePalooza. I will say that. This is your WWE Crown Jewel Perth review. It is Saturday, October 11th, 2025. I am the Solomonster. Yeah, I did see on the post show, they brought Triple H out again. They the way they do the post shows now, because they don't do the media, quote unquote, scrums anymore. So they have the panel, which is usually Jackie Redmond and Big E is there, and Peter Rosenberg. And so they bring people out, and you see the fans in the background. So they brought out Triple H, who of course comes out and he talks about what a great show it was, what a great night, and all of this stuff. And I'm watching some of the highlights of this thing. And if you remember, when the fans behind him, maybe it was SummerSlam, were chanting, "We want Cross, we want Cross." And he, of course, pretended like, "Oh, you want Brock? Well, you got him." Yeah, it had to be the night that Brock came back at SummerSlam. "Oh, you want Brock, right? You want Brock. You got him." Yeah, selective hearing. So this time, this is even better. So this time, you have fans chanting for MJF. I don't know where that came from, but you got MJF chants from the crowd. Of course, he's no selling it and ignoring it, but there's no way he doesn't hear it. And then after that, you've got fans that start chanting, "We want Edge. We want Edge." Again, I don't know where that came from. And almost like under his breath, like he didn't like turn around to address them, but Triple H's response is, "Well, you can't have him." Which is true. I mean, contractually, you can't. There's nothing he could do about it. So he says you can't have him. And so what did the fans do? They begin to sing the lyrics to Metalingus. I felt like it's just like they're all like, and half of them didn't even, I don't think, really know the words to the song, but they start singing the song anyway as Triple H is going through his usual spiel about, what a great show and all this other nonsense. And these people are they're too busy singing Alter Bridge in the background. They're just there to have a good time, right? They were there for SmackDown on Friday. They were there for Crown Jewel. They're going to have Raw again in Australia. It's going to be another early start here on the East Coast. So we got Raw in Perth on Monday as well. And, largely a hot crowd who did all the things that you would expect them to do when you have these international crowds. The singing now is universal. It doesn't matter if they're in the UK, if they're in Paris, France, if they're in Australia, Canada. They all have to sing now. This is the new thing. They all have to sing. I'm begging them to come up with something new. They basically just take the wrestler's name and they just sing the same song, right? It's kind of the same beat, like, Roman Reigns, right? And then they'll just do the same thing over and over again with other people. It's like, come on, come up with some new material. Seriously. If you're going to serenade us, it's the least you could do. It's really all I ask. I will not be doing any singing tonight, though, so you don't have to worry about that. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Super chats are open. We've had a bunch of them in already, so I do appreciate the support. If you have questions and comments on the show, get them on in, and we will go through them a little bit later on here in the stream. I am in the middle of a very busy weekend. We had, of course, a sold-out House of Glory show last night. We had Crown Jewel then early this morning. I am still preparing for tomorrow's podcast. Not very well, but I'm trying. So hopefully the show won't be too late tomorrow. And then tomorrow night is TNA Bound for Glory. And I'm hoping I have the chance to go live for that. So there's a lot going on. And then, of course, it starts all over again, 8 o'clock in the morning with Raw on Monday. So the work never ends, but I thank you for sticking with me for all of it. Now, we get into this show here. Before the show, they had an Australian singer named Sophie Foster. This became a thing on social media. So I've never heard of Sophie Foster before. I'm sure she's a lovely lass. And she did the U.S. national anthem, and then I think she did the one for Australia as well. So she sang the national anthem, and the fans booed. All the way through, the fans booed as she was singing the national anthem, which is not the first time that that's happened this year. If you recall, back at Elimination Chamber, they were in, where were they, Toronto or Montreal? They were in Toronto. They were in Toronto for Elimination Chamber back on March 1st, and the same thing happened there. I don't know why they continue to do this on these international shows. You cannot tell me that they are this stupid that they cannot see this coming. It will only continue. It will only continue to get worse. I laugh. I can't do anything but just laugh. They just never learn their lessons. So anyway, that apparently became a thing before the show. Who gives a shit? Moving on, Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, they handled commentary for the show, so they were on the call for this one. Congrats to Corey Graves, still convalescing, I guess, after his run-in with Brock Lesnar several weeks ago. He and Carmella just had their second child. I did not see if it was a boy or a girl, but congrats to the both of them. So anyway, they opened with the Australian street fight between the big Aussie himself, Bronson Reed, out with Paul Heyman, so no Braun Breaker, and definitely not getting any sort of hero's welcome, even though he is from the country. I don't know what part of Australia he's from, but that shouldn't matter. You know, he's one of them. But no, they did not cheer for him when he came out. But he went one-on-one with the man that they did very much cheer for here, which was Roman Reigns. Reigns was all over Reed for the first, I'd say, 5 minutes or so here of this match. They ended up outside the ring. Reigns found a trash can, and he hit Reed with it. But then he found a few toys, I guess, for him to play with. He found a cricket bat, so he pulled that out. And then he threw what Paul Heyman, he threw what Michael Cole said was a rugby ball. It was not the rugby ball that Michael Cole would have you believe that it was. It was an Australian rules football. This is a very serious thing here. You got to get it right. Australian rules football is what it was. So he threw it at Paul Heyman, which I thought was kind of funny. They got back in the ring. Reigns used the cricket bat as a weapon, sent Reed back out to the floor. So Reigns went to ringside. As soon as he did, though, Reed steamrolled over him and briefly took control. Roman then worked him over with a kendo stick. You can't have a WWE street fight without a kendo stick. It's a prerequisite here. Reigns grabbed the house mic at that point. He told the crowd, "Perth, if you want tables, acknowledge me." So they chanted OTC and acknowledged him. And he pulled out a Slim Jim table from underneath the ring. Reed hit Reigns from behind. He ran him into the ring steps, and then he slid the table back underneath the ring. Instant heat. You want to get heat, you tease the table, and then you shove it back under the ring, and you don't even have to say another word. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. The booze will just rain down upon you. Tables are just the biggest baby face in all of wrestling. So you do something like that, you want to get heat, that's one way to get heat. So Reed grabbed a piece of the ring steps and he battered Roman with it twice before tossing him back inside the ring. Reed pulled out 2 chairs and he hit Roman with one of them, which then he wedged in the corner of the ring. Reed set up a chair in the ring. Roman, though, shot back up and he hit a Samoan drop to this big SOB right on top of the chair. This chair got just destroyed. As soon as he dropped him on the chair, it's as if the chair, like under the weight of Bronson Reed, this fucking chair just collapsed in a heap. Just flattened it. Reigns then ran Reed into the chair that was wedged in the corner. He hit him with a Superman punch. Reigns went to the corner. He let out his battle cry. Or his, I call it his Al Pacino. Hoo-ah. He let out his hoo-ah. I don't know why that's funny to me. Reed, though, rolled out of the ring to avoid the spear. So instead, Reigns went to the floor. He started to circle the ring. He was going to go for a spear. And what happened? Braun Breaker hops the barricade, and he catches Roman before Roman can catch Reed. And he cuts him down with a spear. So Michael Cole said there's nothing the referee can do because it's a street fight. There's no disqualification. Breaker hoisted Reigns up. He handed him off to Reed, who powerbombed him through the announce table. So that brought out the Usos. So they did make the trip, even after Roman told them on Raw Monday night, I don't want you there. I don't want you there. I don't need your help. They were there anyway. Jimmy and Jay dropped Breaker with a double super kick and then did the same to Bronson Reed. The Usos hit simultaneous hip attacks to Reed and Breaker in opposite corners. Then he dropped Breaker with the 1D. So the Usos, they went up top for a double Uso splash. Reed, though, shoved Jimmy off the ropes. Breaker shot up. He grabbed Jay off the ropes and he military pressed him over his head. And he dropped him onto his knees for a gut buster. So Breaker went to the floor, and he ran around the ring before spearing Jimmy through the timekeeper's barricade. Reed went up top. Reigns caught him with a Superman punch. And then a second one. Reigns was ready to charge him for a spear. But he had to go over and he had to give a Superman punch to Braun Breaker to knock him off the apron, which he went ahead and did. Reed then hoisted up Roman, who fought free. And as Jey Uso came in for a spear of his own, Reed moved out of the way and Jey accidentally speared Roman through the table that was propped up in the corner. Uh-oh. So Jey couldn't believe what he just did. Breaker returned to the ring and he speared Jey while Breaker dragged Roman over to the other corner so that his good buddy Bronson Reed can ascend to the top and come flying off with the Tsunami Splash. One Tsunami Splash is all it took to pancake Roman Reigns, and with that Tsunami Splash, Bronson Reed pins Roman Reigns in Perth. They actually did it. Good on them. Good on them. The right call. I mean, this should have been a no-brainer, but, with these people, you never know. But good on them. That was the right call to make. That was absolutely the right call to make because it now makes Roman's win over him at Clash in Paris at least understandable. If the plan had been to run this back and do it this way and give him the win here, understandable. Right? But, I mean, we've seen stuff before where they're just afraid. They're afraid to beat somebody, whether it's a Roman Reigns or even another big baby face. It's like they're allergic to doing it sometimes. And a guy like Roman Reigns is a made guy. So whether you beat him clean or whether you beat him with some assistance, if Roman takes the loss, Roman Reigns is going to wake up the next day and he's still going to be Roman Reigns. He's still going to be the tribal chief or the OTC or whatever nickname he's going by this week. He's still going to be as popular as he was when he laid his head on the pillow the night before, right? For him, nothing changes. But for the person he's in the ring with, that can mean the world, right? That's a big deal. So Bronson Reed picks up, again, inarguably the biggest win of his career. And with this, he becomes only the second man behind only Cody Rhodes, who has a singles pinfall win over Roman Reigns since 2019. That's against Baron Corbin, when Roman was still the big dog. Baron Corbin pinned him. I want to say it was the TLC pay-per-view in 2019. Cody Rhodes and Bronson Reed. He's in rarefied air now. It's a very short list since, this tribal chief bloodline Roman stuff started back in 2020. In terms of singles matches, those are the only two guys. And not only that, but Bronson Reed is now on a list where he has pinfall wins over Roman Reigns and Kazuchika Okada. Not too many people can say that. In fact, I'm not sure if anybody can say that. I mean, I'm sure somebody will hear this and let me know if I'm wrong. I can't think of, who else would be on that list? At least in terms of like bloodline Roman that he beat. Roman Reigns and Okada. Who else would even have the chance to have been on that list? I can't think of anybody. So it was a big win for him. Now, was it a clean win? No, it wasn't clean. And it would have been nice for Reed to shock the world and do it all by himself, of course. He had help from Braun Breaker. But you know what? Roman had help from the Usos. He had backup of his own. So the way I look at it, it kind of balances things out a little bit. Reed was outnumbered as well. When it comes to the Usos going out there, you had Jimmy and Jey and Roman, and then Bronson only had Braun Breaker. So in a way, it was kind of unfair. But as far as street fights go, this one was very basic. It did have a lot of interference. So the best I can really say about it is that it was a solid opener. It really wasn't anything more than that, right? Think about the way they built this up. When they announced the stipulation on TV, they really built it up like, if you're going to beat this man, you're going to have to do it in an Australian street fight. As if this was like a known thing, that when he was on the independent scene in Australia, this was like his specialty or something that he was known for. Like he's deadly in these Australian street fights. Because I thought they were going to make it a stretcher match. And you hear that and it's like, again, the crowd had no reaction to that announcement when they made that stipulation. And I look at it and go, well, of course they have no real reaction to it because they see street fights every single week on TV. They see street fights on every single PLE. And they all have the same formula, right? You see the same weapons, the same Slim Jim tables and kendo sticks, and they, take the top part of the stairs off, and they have the chair across the back, and it's like it's the same bullshit all the time. And so now it's an Australian street fight. And I joked the other day, I was like, well, what does that mean? Like, are they going to throw, what kind of objects are they going to find to throw? And sure enough, they had the rugby bat and they had the Australian football. And that was really it. That was about the only unique stuff they could think of, I guess, to have that you wouldn't find in a normal street fight. That's all it was. And so as street fights go, this was pretty fucking tame. I'm not saying I want them to go in there. I want, fucking Darby Allin ripping John Moxley's ear off and all this gore and shit. But, it was solid. I can't really say it was anything more than that. The bigger story wasn't the match itself, right? Reed winning was like one major story here. The real major story is what came after the match. Roman and the Usos are sitting in the ring, right? Not next to each other, but they're all sitting in the ring and they're just stewing. And they cut the music off and the vision has left. And Reigns is looking over at the Usos and he is scolding his cousins. And he says, the whole world thinks I can't do shit on my own. Says, I told you I'm going to do this on my own. And he looks at Jimmy, he goes, I love you. He looks at Jay and he goes, I love you. But he says, I don't want to see y'all until Christmas. And with that, he leaves. And I'm like, oh man, like that cuts deep. Like he's not even inviting them to Thanksgiving dinner this year. I just pictured in my head like this big, like Samoan feast for Thanksgiving, like all the family members I don't even know if they could find a place big enough to house all of them, but like one long table, something like that. And now they're not even invited now. Roman says, I don't want to see you until Christmas. That's brutal. But anyway, Roman leaves the ring and the fans begin to chant, someone's in trouble, turning this from what was supposed to be a serious angle into comedy, basically. Jay was very upset. He told Jimmy he always do him, right? It's like he always looks out for himself. And I'm sitting here going like, yeah, no shit. I could have told you that. Like, this is the same person that we saw for those 1,300 plus days when he was the champion. Like, absolutely nothing has changed about Roman Reigns since he lost that championship at WrestleMania last year to Cody Rhodes. Nothing. Nothing except his music has changed. He has a new t-shirt. That's about it. That's it. He came back. He's not acting any differently. He's telling people to acknowledge him, right? Nothing has changed. He was an asshole then. He's an asshole now. And the only difference is the fans cheer for him because the fans are assholes. But that's it. And yet they act like, oh, well, he always looks out for himself. He do him. Yeah, no shit. Like, you've been hanging around this guy for years and years and years. But Jay's very upset about this. And Jay basically says, I'm out. He says, I'm out. And that's how the latest Bloodline soap opera ended here on this show. Roman doesn't want to see them until Christmas, he says. But there is a War Games match coming up before that, right after Thanksgiving. So I'm thinking that Roman is going to see his cousins a lot sooner than Christmas. I don't know that either one of the Usos are going heel out of this whole thing. Jay has definitely been acting more heelish of late, which I like. I like that they've kind of tweaked his character to try to give it a harder edge. Roman can't go heel because he never went babyface. No matter what Roman does, you cannot call it a heel turn. If you do, I'll tell you to your face, you're wrong, because he never went babyface. So it's impossible for him to go heel. But I don't see, Jey Uso actually going full-blown heel, and ending the yeet stuff. Like, that's not going to happen. If Jimmy were to go heel, like, to me, like, that's not even that big of a deal. You know what I mean? So I don't, and you've reunited the Usos. I'm not really sure why you would want to split them up. So I don't see that happening. But, Roman, as far as him saying what he said here, like, people say, I can't do shit by myself. So the idea here, I guess, with the character is that, clearly it's bothering him that people say he cannot win without help from his family. So he wants to go it alone now. That's the path that he wants to pursue. So Reigns and Reed now are 1 win apiece, right? Roman won at Clash in Paris. Reed won here at Crown Jewel. If they wanted to have a rubber match, they could get one more match out of this. You know, there's no reason that it has to stay 50-50. They have a Saturday night's main event coming up on November 1st. They could do the match there, you know, if they wanted to. But then somebody really does. I mean, you could always have some sort of no contest finish, but, you know, somebody has to then win, and then it becomes like, does Roman just beat him, or do you have Reed win again? I mean, you really want to solidify Reed. You have him beat Roman a second time. I don't know if that's the direction they want to go in here. But then you have War Games, you know, at Survivor Series. And I can't imagine the Vision is not going to be on the heel side in that match, and Roman will be on the babyface side. And the question then becomes, who does he recruit? I don't know that he'll be the captain necessarily. But if Roman's on the team, let's assume he would be the team captain, because why would Roman be on a team and taking orders from someone else? Who populates that team? Could it be the Usos? Would CM Punk be on his team? Is John Cena going to be in War Games? It looks like that's not the case, if rumors are to be believed. So we'll see how the War Games situation shakes out. After this, we had our first of 2 Crown Jewel Championship matches here on this show. This one with the women. It was the Women's World Champion Stephanie Vaquer, one-on-one against the WWE Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany came into this match undefeated so far here in the year of 2025. 17-0 record, which I say that out loud, and it reminds me of Jim Ross, WrestleMania 25, when The Undertaker beat Shawn Michaels. 17-0. That's what Tiffany Stratton was coming into this match. So they were both cheered pretty much equally. Yeah, you have 2 babyface champions here. I would say from entrance to exit, I don't really recall there being a moment in this match where either of these women got booed. Vaquer kept getting the better of Tiffany. She tried a submission. Tiffany, though, countered out with a back suplex. Stratton followed with a handspring elbow and an Alabama slam for 2. Later on, she tried a swanton off the top, and Vaquer got her knees up. Stephanie did the devil's kiss and the old version of her SVB backbreaker for a 2 count. Stratton came back with a rolling senton, but then missed the prettiest moonsault ever, and Vaquer followed quickly with the corkscrew splash off the top that won her the Women's World Championship when she went one-on-one at WrestlePalooza with Io Sky. And it was a thing of beauty. I mean, that move is a beautiful thing, but it was a rough landing for Tiffany because it looked like, I mean, she ate those knees, like right in the chest, like the chest and midsection. Stephanie's knees just landed right on top of her. I'm sure she's fine. If anything, maybe it knocked the wind out of her. Better that those knees come down, I would say, on her chest than on her face. I would say that would not have ended well. But she gets the clean win. And Stephanie Vaquer is the Crown Jewel champion. Triple H gets in the ring after the match to present Stephanie with the Crown Jewel belt and the Crown Jewel ring, because you get a belt and you get a ring. And he strapped the title around her waist. And this was, I wish I would have taken a picture of this. This was hilarious. He straps this championship around her waist. And I can't even say her waist. He basically strapped it around her body. This belt took up the majority of her upper body, let alone her midsection. This belt is gigantic. And it reminded me of when Liv Morgan won last year. And Liv is even smaller than Stephanie. And it's just comical. Like, I remember thinking to myself, because I guess Liv was also, she would have had to have been the women's world champion at that point. So she had 2 belts. But it's like, how does this girl not tip over? I mean, I would love to know how much that belt weighs. It's so just absolutely over the top in terms of how large these belts are. But she was very emotional. Jackie Redmond got in the ring to interview her, and she said that they all did this together. She said the title represented all of the emotional support from the fans that they gave her. She followed her dreams. The fans believed in her, and now she believes in herself. Basically the same speech that she gave after she won the Women's World Championship. And then she posed on the ropes as they shot off pyro over by the stage. Yes, the belt looked like a shield. It looked like body armor. Like really gaudy body armor. They had a good wrestling match with a clean finish, right? Never a bad thing to have a clean finish, but nothing terribly memorable. Again, there was no story of any kind. You compare the two Crown Jewel matches, right? Polar opposites in terms of there was a real story independent of the Crown Jewel stuff going into the men's match, and they didn't have anything like that here for the women. It was about a championship that doesn't matter. It might look nice, and I'm sure it cost a fortune to make those belts with the gems and everything in them. But beyond that, like, there was nothing here to really invest in. And it was two baby faces. So it's not even like good versus evil. We're going to get behind this person because we really don't want this person to win. You got two baby faces wrestling for a championship that doesn't matter. They're on two separate brands. There's no prior interaction with them. There's no real story there. So you had the match. The match was okay. It was fine. And that's it. Nothing memorable about it. They got shortchanged, though, because they only gave them about 10 minutes. So, you know, while everything I just said is true, they should have gotten a little more time. I would have shaved time from the men's match. I mean, there's no reason that the women's Crown Jewel match gets 10 minutes and the men's gets 30. And I understand the men's has more of a story, but that's a huge disparity between those two matches. I'm not saying that they each should have been exactly the same amount of time, but you could have given the women a few more minutes here. So Tiffany went unbeaten the entire year. It was the right outcome here. It was. She's in a better position to take a loss here than Stephanie. Stephanie just won the Women's World Championship not even a month ago. You know, Tiffany has had that championship the entire year, basically. When did she win that title? Did she win the title last year? I don't even remember when she won that belt. Because she wrestled Charlotte at WrestleMania for it. I don't remember. When did she win? She won the title on TV. I remember that. God, when did she win it? I'm trying to think. I don't know. She cashed in the briefcase whenever it was. She's had that championship for a long time. So I wouldn't be beating Stephanie right now, given that she just won the title. But here's the thing about all of this. I would not have put the championship on Stephanie to begin with. You know, if Naomi was able to wrestle her in Paris like she was originally supposed to do, I don't believe Stephanie was winning that match. I do not believe there was any chance of taking that championship off of Naomi in her first or second title defense. That would have been ridiculous. I guess it would have been her second because she would have had the match on TV with Io. And as it turned out, neither match ended up happening. So Stephanie would have lost and it wouldn't have killed her. And then at that point, you can take your time building to it because you know that championship is going to make its way to this woman. This woman, she's incredibly good in the ring. She's a very good pro wrestler. She's very likable. She's very attractive and very marketable. Like, checks all the boxes that you would want to check in a star on your roster. You take your time. You let her overcome some adversity of some kind and build to a championship win. That's how I would have done it. And maybe that's how WWE would have done it. But plans changed and Naomi had to vacate the belt and they had to put the belt on somebody. And it was really, I mean, realistically, it was going to be Rhea, Io, or Stephanie. And I didn't get the impression they were ready to put that belt back on Rhea. Rhea doesn't need the belt right now. So it was either Io or Stephanie. And I figured, you know, you put the belt back on Io and then you can have Io drop it to, you know, whoever, because Io probably wouldn't have it for very long. But this is what they opted to do. So I wouldn't have even had the championship on her in the first place, but that's the way the things ended up happening. But here's my fear, and this is the reason why I don't think I would have done that. My fear is that she won the world title. She just won the Crown Jewel title. Right, she's got 2 titles. She's got a ring. Is it too much too soon? She's very likable, but now that she's won everything, it is incumbent upon them to keep things interesting when it comes to whatever it is that she's doing on television, whatever story you're telling, whatever opponent you want to put her in the ring with. They're in a better position, at least, to put her in the ring with some interesting people because the Raw women's division is a lot stronger right now than the SmackDown women's division. And hopefully there'll be a rebalancing soon and they'll take steps to correct that, especially with some of these creative changes that we've heard about on the Friday show. But I'm more worried about 3 months from now, 4 months from now, as we're heading into WrestleMania season. Are we going to be talking about how bland everything feels with Stephanie? That's my fear, because she's been given so much so soon that she's done everything there is to do on her side of the aisle, on that brand. How do you keep things interesting now? Do you reach a point where the fans begin to resent her or get bored of this run? Maybe not. Tiffany Stratton is still very popular. I look at this run that Tiffany Stratton has had this year, for the most part, it's been very uneventful. It's been very dull. She has not had something to really sink her teeth into in the way that she has with certain other people that she's worked with in the past. Right? I mean, look at what they had her go back to Nia Jax and Jade Cargill. Like, it hurt that Bianca was not around, but that's what I mean when I say they need to really shore up the women's side on that roster. But yeah, look, Tiffany is still very popular. Maybe Stephanie will not fall victim to that, but other people have fallen victim to that in the past. That's the problem when you just, hey, here's everything, right? And now it's like, you got to give them some sort of obstacle at some point. You got to give them a reason to chase after that so-called brass ring that you used to hear Vince McMahon talking about. But there has to be something there, or the fans are going to turn on you, and the fans are going to get bored, and they're going to be like, all right, well, we've seen her beat this person and that person, and she has this belt and that belt, and it's like, all right, well, now what? So that's my only concern there. And I look at the potential, challengers for her, and it's like, they're going to come back around to Rhea. It's just inevitable. The Rhea and Asuka and Kairi and Io stuff is not over yet. Certainly not with Io and Asuka. Maybe Rhea moves on to something else now, but it seems like that's going to continue probably for a little while longer. But you got Rhea. Of course, you could always fall back on her. You've got Io. Io's off doing her own thing, right? So is Asuka. Liv Morgan is going to come back in a few months. What's going to happen when Liv Morgan comes back? I think Liv Morgan is going to come back, and the fans are going to probably treat her as a babyface. You could do something with Liv and Roxanne, I guess. Liv Morgan may come back and win the Royal Rumble and challenge for the championship. And I could see the people wanting her to beat Stephanie if it comes to a Stephanie-Liv match at WrestleMania next year. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this now in the months to come, because there's been no struggle. There is something to be said for having that struggle, and she hasn't had that. Now, backstage, Paul Heyman congratulated Bronson Reed on his big win. Reed was sitting there with an ice pack on his neck after his big Roman Reigns victory. Heyman said the vision of the future now meant Reed and Breaker. Heyman also told them to stay in the back if Seth Rollins called for help tonight in his match with Cody Rhodes. Heyman said that we would find out who the better man was, and then he left. And Braun Breaker did not seem to like this. He asked Bronson Reed, what's going to happen if Cody wins this match? What happens then? And Heyman heard this, and he returned to tell him, I think you both know the answer to that question. Intrigue. What does that mean? Well, we'll worry about that some other time, because after this, it was time for the match that I was most looking forward to here on this show. Funny enough, the match with absolutely no story. Coming into this show is the match that I was looking forward to the most. And really, one last time, this was the end of an era in many ways, because John Cena is on his way out the door, and we know AJ Styles is not too far behind. And these guys, John Cena debuted on WWE television in 2002. AJ Styles debuted not that long before him, right? He had a few years on Cena. He would have ended up in WCW had WCW not gone under. But their careers, in terms of length, their careers have mirrored each other in many ways. Basically, 25, 28 years, whatever it's been. And now that's coming to an end, and it feels like, man, and Tanahashi is retiring, in January. So it really does feel like we're in the middle of this sort of changing of the guard in many ways. But we had John Cena one-on-one with AJ Styles. There was no recap video here like they had for all the other matches because there was nothing to recap. John Cena was not around for any television before this match or after this match was promoted. So they came into this all knotted up at 2 wins apiece. This right here was the rubber match of their series. Styles entered first, and he was sporting the same trunks that he wore in the OG days of TNA. Because back then, AJ wore trunks. He didn't wear long tights, and that was like the NWA TNA days. But the blue and white trunks that he was wearing, I mean, I don't want to say it was the exact same pair. Maybe he had a new one made, but those were the trunks that he wore on the very first episode of Impact that debuted on Spike TV in 2005. He had a match, I think opened the show, against Frankie Kazarian. Or I'm sorry, not Frankie Kazarian. He wrestled Roderick Strong. And he wore that same gear. So that was cool. I mean, you talk about throwbacks. That's throwing it back. And it's so weird, too, because it's like the Jericho thing. When Jericho suddenly switched over from tights to trunks, it was jarring at first. It's like, wait, something's different here. Because he had spent his entire career wearing long tights. And then all of a sudden, like, the guy's getting older, and now he's wearing trunks. Usually it's the opposite, where you get older, you're a little more out of shape, you don't want to show off your legs anymore, so you cover them up, right? I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I think of the Macho Man, talking about him recently. And if you think about, the early part of his career, right? He never wore a shirt. He didn't have like a top on when he wrestled. And then all of a sudden, like in 1990, 91, whatever it was, all of a sudden, I think it was 91. Now his whole gear changed. And it's like, yeah, of course, because he's not on the same shit that he was on before. And he's getting older. So anyway, it was a little weird, but that's how he started his career. Now, John Cena came out. He got a monster reaction. He told Stu, the cameraman, that this was the last international show of his career. In the ring, Alicia Taylor introduced Cena, but before she could do the same for AJ, Cena stopped her, handed her a piece of paper, and told her to go ahead and read what was on that paper. This is the intro that Cena himself, I assume Cena himself, wrote for AJ Styles. She called him the definition of total nonstop action, the ace and undisputed boss of the Bullet Club. It is our honor as fans and my honor as an opponent to see if he can beat up John Cena one final time. He is the face that runs the place, the phenomenal AJ Styles. And Styles smiled. He seemed caught off guard by that intro, so that was very nice. That was a nice moment there. Alexander says about Savage, his gear changed because his gear changed. Yes. Yes, it did. Yep. Macho wasn't taking his vitamins anymore. I'll tell you what, though. He was taking his vitamins in the late stages there of WCW. He was making up for lost time is what he was doing. I'm sure that didn't help his heart. So they rang the bell, and immediately we got a holy shit chant. Then they got dueling chants for Cena and AJ, back and forth. Cena set up for a 5-knuckle shuffle. Styles, though, stopped that with a well-placed kick. Cena came right back with a slam, and he did do the 5-knuckle shuffle, and he followed that up with an attitude adjustment for a near fall. Granted, we were only 5 minutes into this match, and we already had an attitude adjustment here. Styles hit an Ushigoroshi right across the knee, but then came up selling his knee, and Michael Cole even called it by that name, and he credited, and I quote, my buddy Morrow for teaching him how to pronounce it. Cena paid homage to The Miz, then with a skull-crushing finale for a near fall, and this was the first of many homages from both men here in this match. This is what this match will be most remembered for, is all of the different moves that were stolen. I will say this, though. If you're going to steal someone else's move, at least make it look good. And John Cena was making it look good. He did justice to the moves, at least that he was pulling off here. Styles hit a torture rag bomb for a near fall of his own. Styles then hit a scorpion death drop for another near fall. Cole acknowledged that it was an homage to another one of AJ's great opponents. He said that without mentioning the name Sting. Yeah, it's funny. All the people that Cena was paying homage to, they mentioned their name. All the people that AJ was paying homage to, I don't think a single name was mentioned. That's how it goes. Cena caught Styles in the STFU, which I will say looked fucking horrendous. I mean, it looked terrible. Styles escaped and put Cena in a crossface. Cena got out of that. He put AJ in a camel clutch, or you might say the accolade. Former WrestleMania opponent in Rusev. That actually got chance of Rusev Day from some of the fans in the crowd. Styles escaped, and he put Cena in what Michael Cole assumed was, and he called it this, what Michael Cole assumed was a coquina clutch. Again, he said this without ever mentioning Samoa Joe by name. After that, Styles went for a calf crusher, but Cena countered into, not just a Boston Crab, Cole said, that's a Walls of Jericho. And the crowd, broke out in Y2J chants. So in case you're wondering, and nobody should have been wondering this to begin with, because, a lot of people got very sick of seeing Chris Jericho in AEW and, just the learning tree. And it's just, after a while, absence does make the heart grow fonder. Sometimes it's better to go away. For self-preservation, it's better to leave and go away sometimes and then come back than to never leave at all. Because how could they miss you if you don't leave? And I'll bet you, the minute that Jericho returns to WWE, and I fully believe he is coming back to WWE early next year, the minute he comes back, he's going to be treated like a god that first time back. He's going to get this monster reaction because it's been years since people have seen him in WWE. I want to say it might have been that very first Saudi Arabia show in the Greatest Royal Rumble. That may have been the last WWE match that he was in. So that first time back, at least, or first couple of times, of course, he's going to get a great reaction. But if you were wondering, will he or won't he? This should silence any and all doubt about that. Of course he will. He'll get a hero's welcome when he comes back. Styles countered out into a calf crusher. Cena escaped the hold. He went for the STFU, which he gave up when Styles got close to the ropes. Styles hit Cena with a Styles Clash for a near fall. AJ went for a phenomenal forearm, but Cena caught him in position for a Sister Abigail. And that got a rise out of the crowd big time. And Cena leaned over and he kissed AJ on the forehead and he dropped him with Sister Abigail. When I say that he was paying respect to these moves, he had a pretty fucking good Sister Abigail. Some good velocity there as he took AJ down to the mat. He got a great near fall out of that one. The fans went nuts for the Bray Wyatt tribute. They even pulled out their phones. We got the Fireflies in the crowd. And thank you, thank you Wyatt, I think they were chanting. And it looked like Cena even in the ring was kind of taking a moment to admire it and kind of take it all in. Styles then hit a Christopher Daniels Angel's Wings for a near fall. Cena came back with a pedigree attempt, but Styles countered that with the Fade to Black, a la Frankie Kazarian. Although you may know that move these days as the Deadeye from one Hangman Page, the AEW World Champion. I didn't hear any cowboy shit chants, though. I did hear holy shit chants after this, but I did not hear them say cowboy shit. Cena came back and hit the Randy Orton draping DDT, to which Cole shouted, "Vintage John Cena," which doesn't really make any sense, Cole. And then he hit the Viper's pose. Styles got up and Cena dropped him with an RKO. And as soon as he hit that RKO, the place exploded, but he only got two. Now, at that point, Cena backed into the corner. He was setting up for the Orton punt kick. As he came in for the kick, Styles moved out of the way. He hit Cena with an attitude adjustment of his own. Again, only for a 2.5. Styles started to do the "you can't see me" bit to Cena, but Cena reached up and he goozled him. He grabbed him by the throat, Undertaker style. And then he lifted AJ and slammed him with a chokeslam for a near fall. So a little nod there to the Boneyard match at WrestleMania between Styles and Undertaker. And at this point, the crowd picked up on, I mean, how could you not, right? Pick up on what's going on here with all these moves. So the crowd's like, oh, this might be the new thing now for however many matches Cena has left. Oh, since we're kind of going back in the greatest hits, we want to see him do a 619. Of all the fucking, I mean, they could have done a Phoenix Splash. I mean, it could have been worse. But they start chanting 619, right? And I'm sure in his head, Cena's like, oh, we got to improvise here, you know? And I'm like, I got to see this. Like, this will either be, if he actually does this, this will either be the greatest thing I've ever seen or the worst. Like, one or the other. And sure enough, immediately after the fans begin chanting 619, and again, just the absurdity of it is just hilarious to me. But right after that, he drops Styles onto the middle rope in perfect position for a 619. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I am seated. I have to see this. There's no fucking way. You got two guys in the ring who were in no position to be doing a 619, especially Cena. Styles is more athletically gifted than Cena when it comes to pulling off some of these moves. Even AJ Styles. It's a move he's never done before. He's 48 years old. He ain't doing a fucking 619. And if AJ Styles is not doing a 619, then John Cena sure as hell ain't doing a 619. But damn it, it looks like he's going to try. So he hits the ropes, and as soon as he comes off, AJ cuts him off with a clothesline. And that was the only time in this entire match that AJ Styles actually got booed by this crowd, because they were deprived of seeing either the greatest or the worst 619 ever delivered in the history of wrestling. It could still happen. There's rumors of Cena and Dom. I'm just saying. There could be more chance of 619. Cena may end up having his chance at some point. So Styles followed with a springboard 450, but there was no pin attempt. He tuned up the band instead, and he hit a picture-perfect Shawn Michaels Sweet Chin music and only got a 2.5 count. Styles removed his elbow pad, and he hit the phenomenal forearm, but again, only got 2. Cena hit an attitude adjustment out of nowhere for a near fall. Cena then sat Styles on the top turnbuckle. And he went to the middle rope, and Cena tried to get Styles on his shoulders. Styles instead knocked him off the ropes. Cena's on his feet now. And AJ comes diving off at Cena with a crossbody, and Cena rolls through. And then he hits Styles with a tombstone pile driver. And Cena immediately hoists him back up, and he hits one final AA to put him away and pin AJ Styles. This was about 27 minutes or so into this match. After the match was over, Cena helped AJ to his feet, and the two men hugged, and they raised each other's arms before Styles left the ring so that Cena could celebrate all by himself. Cena left the ring, he kissed his wife at ringside, and he headed to the back. This was an excellent match with plenty of callbacks and tributes to some of their greatest rivals. If it was anybody else doing this, okay, if it was any other circumstance, if it was anybody else spamming finishers, spamming other people, not even their own, just like a fucking video game. And I think Wade Barrett even made the or maybe Cole did, but they made the comment at one point that it's like a video game where you sort of create your own wrestler and program them to use every fucking finishing move from the existing roster. That's what this was. This was like the video game match in some ways of the show. Anybody else does this, it's probably going to get raked over the coals, you know, and it's going to be like, all right, can we not do this, please? But in this case, this is a little bit different, because it wasn't just that these two were relying on going out there and just spamming moves, you know, from other people. Here you have two men who are in the twilight of their careers. Okay? Cena is down after this show here. Cena is down to the final 4 appearances. And he even flashed the 4, like the Horseman, when the match was over. You've got Boston on November 10th. So we're not seeing him for another month, by the way. Boston on November 10th. Madison Square Garden on November 17th. Survivor Series on November 29th. Saturday night's main event on December 13th. And that's it. So there's a lot of guys on that roster that he's not going to have the chance to work with. Like The Miz. Like Rusev. right? Like Edge when he busted out Edge's moves at was it in the Logan Paul match? It might have been Clash in Paris. Maybe SummerSlam. So there's a lot of guys that he's not going to have the chance to work with, and this is his way of saying thank you. You know, it's like a wink and a nod. And you see what Copeland did, by the way, at the AEW pay-per-view at All Out when he was using John Cena's moves, right? This is just their way of sort of paying it back and showing respect to each other. And as far as, you know, AJ Styles is concerned, yeah, I would say that there's zero chance that AJ Styles, if he's true and honest about retiring next year, possibly as soon as WrestleMania, he's not going to have the chance to work with Samoa Joe. He's not going to have the chance to work with a Frankie Kazarian or a Christopher Daniels, and he's certainly not going to be working with Sting. So it was their way to just, you know, again, tip the hat and have some fun with it. And the fans were having fun with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it just added to the match. It added to the fun of the match. But you consider the names they paid tribute to tonight. And I was thinking about this also. Like AJ, right? Sting, Kazarian, Daniels, right? Daniels goes back a long way too, to those, the turn of the century, really. Late 90s, turn of the century. Samoa Joe, and then Cena, right? Miz and Rusev. And in the past, he's paid tribute to other wrestlers as well, but they kind of run the gamut, you know, over the last couple of decades. And it just illustrates how long their careers have stretched. These guys have been around for a long time. And it's a weird thing for someone like me because I've been a fan of wrestling since 1987. Okay, and I was very young at that point, but I would say those were probably my earliest memories of wrestling from around that time period, like WrestleMania 3, right? Around then. So I grew up and I was a big fan of the golden era of wrestling, right? Mid to late 80s, early 90s. Then you got the late 90s and the Monday Night War and the Attitude Era and all that. It's just this really fun time to be a fan. And then that bled into the Ruthless Aggression era. And that's really where, while there was a lot of great stuff during that era, it was really from like that point and beyond that. Once we got past the SmackDown 6 era and all that, where it's like, all right, yeah, this stuff doesn't really compare to what came before it. But now we're sitting here and it's over 20 fucking years since the Ruthless Aggression era. And so guys like John Cena are now looked at as the old crusty veterans, you know, and I'm just sitting here going, man, I'm still thinking about, you know, fucking Randy Savage and Jake Roberts and Bret Hart and Legion of Doom and Demolition and all those guys. And I know I'm not the only one, but it just shows you like time passes by quickly. You know, the eras go by and you don't spend your waking hours of every day thinking about it. And then one day you just turn around and it's like, holy shit, I can't believe that, you know, this much time has gone by. But that's who these guys are now. Now these guys are the legends. You know, these guys are, you know, the old guys. And it's just crazy. It's crazy how the eras come and go, you know, and when these guys are gone, the people that you see on TV right now, there'll be plenty of fans who are watching wrestling right now in 10, 15 years who are going to look at Roman Reigns the same way and Drew McIntyre the same way and Kevin Owens the same way. One day, Logan Paul, he'll be looked at that way too. It's pretty incredible. Cena versus Stone Cold is missed. Well, that's one of those kind of battle of the eras matches that just kind of passed us by. See, I never thought that would have been a good match to do anyway. Like of all the old dream matches that you could have done where like they kind of just missed each other, Cena and Stone Cold, that would not have been very high on my list. I'm sure it would have been for some people, but I don't know. Maybe it would have been good, but that wouldn't have been near the top of my list. These two, though, again, they always had a chemistry in the ring that was great. I've never seen them had a single bad match in my entire life. I thought this was a fitting end to what ended up being a classic rivalry. And I'm very happy for not only Cena that he had the chance here at the tail end of this run to sort of course correct and show people what he can really do, but AJ Styles too, because let's be honest here, AJ the last several years in WWE has felt wasted. Like they could have been doing a lot more with him. And now we know that he's hanging it up soon too. So I'm glad he got to have a match like this where he can go out there and steal the show and get the kind of reaction that he got here, tonight. And I can only hope that WWE will treat, the end of AJ's career in the way that they are now treating this last leg of John Cena's run and not the first half of it. Because I would not trust WWE to do an AJ Styles retirement tour next year. A retirement program heading into WrestleMania? Sure. A retirement run? These people? Not a chance. Think about that. Think about, this was John Cena, one of the biggest stars of all time in the history of this company. And somehow they bungled a good portion of this. What do you think they would do to a guy who actually did not make his name in WWE? I don't want to find out. But for AJ's sake, I hope they give him a nice send-off. We had Rhea Ripley and we had Io Sky against Asuka and Kairi Sane. This was a homecoming for Rhea on what just so happens to be her 29th birthday. I didn't even realize that. I already figured Rhea was going to win anyway. Then I realized, oh shit, it's on her birthday. There's no fucking chance that this woman is losing here. But think about what she has already accomplished. Think about what she has accomplished and think about how popular she is. She's not even 30 yet. Wild. So Asuka and Kairi, they attacked the babyfaces right at the bell. Everybody got involved. Io, though, was alone with Asuka when the dust settled. Io got the better of their exchange. She hit Asuka with a crazy suicide dive out to the floor. Io dodged an attack by Kairi, but that allowed Asuka to then shove Io into the ring post. And the way they worked this match was kind of smart, and it makes sense. They kept Rhea out of it as long as they possibly could. Not unlike the way they booked the tag match at WrestlePalooza. You had CM Punk and AJ Styles against Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. How do you do a match like that? You keep AJ out as long as possible, right? And you just get people salivating to see this woman finally tag into this match. And then when she does, right, it blows the roof off the place. That's kind of how they work this, right? The heels got the heat on Io for a long time. Every time she would try to go for a tag, they would pull her away. And Rhea was just on the apron begging for a tag and waiting for a tag, and the people wanted her to get the hot tag. So finally she gets it. And the place goes nuts. And Kairi cut her off actually pretty quick, and the heels took over until Ripley nailed Kairi with a big boot. Rhea gave Kairi a razor's edge at one point that just absolutely folded this poor girl up. I mean, like a freaking accordion. Only for Io to follow with a missile dropkick. As soon as Kairi kind of stumbled back to her feet, she got blasted by a missile dropkick off the top rope. Io went for a cover, only got a 2 count. So Kairi gave Io an Alabama slam, much safer than the one that she gave on Raw on Monday night, and knocked Rhea Ripley off the apron. Io brought Kairi off the top with an arm drag and went to the top herself, but Asuka distracted her. Kairi then knocked down Io and drove Ripley into the steel steps. Io came back, and she wiped out both Kabuki Warriors with an Asai moonsault on the floor. She followed with a proper moonsault on Kairi in the ring, but Asuka broke up the cover. Asuka then held Ripley almost in a scorpion death drop type position so that Kairi can come off the top with an insane elbow. Io, though, was able to break up the cover. Ripley dropped Asuka face first on the top turnbuckle and then pulled Asuka up for an avalanche riptide attempt she was attempting here when Kairi tagged herself in. Ripley ended up hitting Kairi with the riptide instead, and then she tagged in Io so that she could hit her over the moonsault. I like that. Even though she's in her home country, in front of her family and friends and her home people, her countrymen and women, she allowed her good friend Io to pick up the winning fall here in this match. And Io hits the moonsault, and she puts it away for the babyfaces. And Michael Cole said, in reference to this toxic relationship here with Asuka and Kairi, you know what they say, blind faith in your leaders will get you killed. Yes. Yes, it will. Look at Michael Cole dropping knowledge here. So Kairi took the bullet for Asuka. How is Asuka going to respond to that now? It would be very easy for them to get their heat back. All you got to do on Monday is have Asuka once again go ahead and mist Io in the face, or at least try to, because that really is the goal here, right? The goal is to get us to a match between Io Sky and Asuka. And you have a show coming up on November 1st, Saturday night's main event. That would be a good place to do that match. So I have to assume that we're going to be getting that match before we get to Survivor Series, and they're not going to do a match between them at Survivor Series. Doesn't make sense. I mean, it would make more sense if they end up in the Women's War Games match. So if we get that match with Io and Asuka, even Saturday night's main event is still several weeks away. But to me, that would make sense. Instead of just kind of doing it on TV, that they would do it on a show like that. But they have, again, more runway here, I think, with this feud. So we're not done yet. Does Rhea move on to something else and kind of leaves Io to her own with Asuka and Kairi? No, I don't think so necessarily, because why would she do that? She wants to back up her friend. So I think that we'll get more probably with all four of them. I enjoyed the match. Rhea got the big reaction for her entrance and her hot tags and all the big spots that you would expect. But it was very interesting. I felt like during the match itself, I felt like it was Io who was getting more of the chance, right? The crowd was every bit as much into Io Sky because, again, she's super likable. Between Io and Stephanie, they have two baby faces on that women's Raw roster that are extremely likable. And with Io, she gets a reaction with everything she does pretty much every time she's out there. So, I mean, they make a great combination here. It's a big win for the baby faces, a clean win for the baby faces. I don't think anybody should have really expected her to lose in Perth. Why would that? I mean, is Vince McMahon secretly running the show still? Wait a minute, pal. You mean to tell me not only are we in her home country, but it's her birthday? We got to beat her. It'll be great heat. Of course, Rhea was winning in Perth. The only thing that surprised me is that we got to Perth and Rhea wasn't challenging for the championship. That's the only thing that surprised me. Because when they first announced this, I thought for sure, if not at Crown Jewel, then on the Raw after, Rhea would be getting a shot at the Women's World Championship. And I don't know, maybe, you know what? I maintain that is what we would have gotten had Naomi not gotten pregnant. I think it would have been, maybe not on this show because it's champion against champion, but I think it would have been Naomi and Rhea on Raw this Monday. Because how do you not build to that? You know what I mean? Like, what would Naomi, or who would Naomi be feuding with otherwise? I still believe that would have been the destination, most likely. But Rhea in Perth, I mean, come on, man. I mean, you could not have honestly expected her to lose here. And they closed with the men's Crown Jewel Championship match between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Rollins wore the watch that Cody gifted. See, his watch was a lot nicer than mine. Nobody gifted me this watch. I bought this for myself. But I will tell you what I don't do. I don't take the watch off each night when I put it on the charger. I don't do it as dramatically as Seth Rollins did here. Because when he got down to the ring, now this is the watch I should point out. This is the watch that Cody gifted to him in Philadelphia after WrestleMania last year when Cody finished the story and Rollins was his shield, right? And he provided the assist so that he could win the WWE Championship. But he very dramatically removed the watch as he disrobed here in the ring. And he also had some yellow, dusty polka dots going down the length of his tights. Early in the match, the crowd chanted wanker, or wanka, at Rollins, which he was not very happy about. They had called him a wanker on SmackDown Friday night as well when Cody was talking. So Rollins leaves the ring. He goes over to the announce desk, and he's putting the blame on them. And specifically, he's putting the blame on Wade Barrett for this for some reason. And Cole is kind of in between them, and he gives Michael Cole a shove, and Cole's like, what are you doing? Calm down, and all this stuff. So now he's assaulting the announcers. And Cody attacks him from behind as Rollins is quarreling here with Cole. Anyway, Cody gets draped over the barricade by Seth. Seth delivers a double foot stomp to the shoulder. Later on, Rhodes went for a disaster kick. Rollins, though, ran up behind him and he hit a sit-out powerbomb for 2. Rollins targeted the arm and the shoulder. And at one point, he did the Stardust cartwheel and pose, a little pose that I can't do it, but the Stardust pose. Mocking him. He's mocking this man. And then Rollins did some dusty jabs. Cody responded with jabs of his own. Rollins applied a figure 4, and Rhodes struggled for a while before finally getting out of it. Cody fought back and hit a vertebraker. And Cody then, after that, landed a disaster kick, a bionic elbow, a suicide dive, and a Cody cutter, which is quite the flurry of offense. It still was not enough to hit a 3 count, though. He got 2.5 out of it. But it still wasn't enough. She's still angry. She's still angry, isn't she? Jeremy Rose with a $15 Kairi super chat. Asuka's going to be very angry. I can only imagine the Kairi that she's going to let out on Raw this Monday. Kairi's the one who took the losing fall in that tag team match. Can you imagine how loud that's going to be? Thank you, Jeremy. So Rollins, he avoided another disaster kick attempt. Quickly followed that up with a pedigree for a 2 count. We ought to make a list. This could be a good exercise here. We ought to make a list of all of the old finishing moves that used to mean something in wrestling, and now they mean absolutely fuck all. Because the super kick and the pedigree would be number 1 and 2, I think, at the top of that list. Like, these moves used to be, like, when these guys would hit these moves, they were done, right? It was rare. People would kick out, but it was rare that people would kick out of it. And now, especially the pedigree, like, first of all, it doesn't even look good. It didn't look good, honestly, for the last probably fucking 10 years that Triple H was actually using it himself. Just kind of lets go when the guy just falls down. But man, I mean, it's just another move, man. I can't even call it a setup move. It's just, what is it setting up for? It's not setting up for anything. It's not setting up for the finish. Yes, Canadian Destroyer, thank you. Except Penta does use it as a finisher in WWE, which I appreciate. So I try to forget about all the times in AEW where he just used it and people just got right back up from it. I'm looking at you, Orange Cassidy. But seriously, those 2 moves would have to be at or near the very top of the list. So Cody tried to cross Rhodes. Rollins hit one of his own for 2. Rhodes avoided a Phoenix Splash, but missed a super Cody cutter in spectacular fashion. This was actually hilarious. So Cody, he went flying. This was almost as hilarious as that match with Cody and Carmelo Hayes on SmackDown that time, when they each went for something and they both missed. And they just kind of flew by. They like passed by each other through midair like 2 passing ships in the night and just crashed and burned. This wasn't quite as funny as that. But Cody went up for this super Cody cutter and nobody was there. Rollins had moved. And Cody, he got some height and he just splatted on the mat. Rollins then immediately hit a curb stomp, but only got a near fall. So at that point, Rollins went outside over to the timekeeper's area, and he sees the watch. The watch is sitting right next to the timekeeper, Berkeley Ottman, son of Tugboat. Toot toot. Sees the watch, and he picks it up, and he places the watch around his fist, right around his fingers, which I think is the same thing that John Cena did to Cody when Cena kicked him in the dick and turned heel at Elimination Chamber, right? I remember Michael Cole was like, oh, he hit him with brass knucks. It's like, it's a fucking watch, Cole. So he puts the watch around his fingers and he goes back to the ring. But before he gets in the ring, he's having this crisis of conscience. And he's struggling with this. And should I or shouldn't I? And he takes the watch off and he places it on the mat right in the corner of the ring. So he's not going to use it, right? But he gets back in the ring. And as soon as he gets back in the ring, Cody is there waiting for him. And he meets him with a Cody cutter and a crossroads, and he only gets a near fall. So Cody ended up trapped upside down after this in the corner in a tree of woe. Rollins goes to the ropes in the far corner, same side of the ring, but in the far corner. and he hit a great coast-to-coast diving headbutt that honestly looked like it took as much out of him as it did out of Cody. Rollins followed with a Spanish fly off the top rope, and then he hit a manhandle slam to Cody for a near fall. Both men found themselves perched on the top rope yet again, but this time Cody delivered an avalanche crossroads. You know what? We got to add another move to that list, the crossroads. When was the last time we saw Cody win with one crossroads? He's the WWE champion. If ever there was a finish in this company to protect, like they protect the tsunami splash, they protect the bro kick, why are you not protecting the fucking champion's finish? Why does it take 3 fucking crossroads to win most of his matches here? And so here he hits a super crossroads, right? Off the ropes. And he goes for the cover. And of course, Seth kicks out. And to me, that was one fall too many. Now, I will say, Cena and AJ, they had a lot of near falls in that match too. But I like that match, right? It worked there. I can excuse it in that match. I cannot excuse that here. This was, and I feel like we, in many of these like big main events where they do go overboard sometimes with the near falls, we see it in both companies way too often. But there's always that one moment, that one move where it's like, yeah, I can't tell you why, but like that right there, that was too much for me. Like that was the issue I really started having with like Adam Cole matches, where it's like, I've seen Adam Cole matches with tons of near falls, and it's like these great epic battles, and the crowd's going nuts for it. But then I would see these matches where it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, I've lost count of how many near falls we've had here. It's ridiculous, and it kind of takes me out of the match. I thought this was the one right here. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but for me, an avalanche crossroads, that needs to be the end of the match. And I knew that Cody wasn't winning, so it's like, why even do that? Let him attempt to do it. And then, Seth can kind of work his way out of it. Hit a Phoenix Splash or something. So they traded spots until Cody set up for a pedigree. There it is again. He's going to go for a pedigree, guys. Rollins got out of it, though. He crawled to the watch, which was on the corner. Remember, he set the watch down on the mat in the corner. And Rollins wraps it around his hand. The referee didn't see this. Neither did Cody. Rollins then accidentally on purpose bumps the referee. And as Cody is setting up for crossroads, Rollins reaches up and just punches him right in the head with the watch. And down goes Cody. Rollins followed with a curb stomp and then a second curb stomp off the middle rope to finally exercise the demons and get that elusive win over Cody Rhodes. He came into this 0 for 3. No longer. And as he did earlier with Stephanie Vaquer, Triple H then gets in the ring after the match. He straps the Crown Jewel title around Seth's waist and presents him with his brand new ring. Kathy Kelly gets in the ring. She was about to interview Rollins, but he yanked the mic away from her like she was Tony Schiavone. And Rollins said that he knew what she was going to ask him, which is how it felt to get that monkey off his back. He said it felt better than anybody could ever imagine. Some of us dream impossible dreams and have the fortitude to reach those dreams, but only one man reached higher than the highest. He was no longer the greatest of his generation. He is now the greatest of all time. And then they shot off pyro for him as Stephanie Vaquer joined Rollins in the ring so that they could both pose with their big, gaudy belts, just like Cody and Liv Morgan did last year. I thought for sure CM Punk was about to jump Seth during that speech. Like, I was waiting for it. I'm like, all right, now you're going to have him gloat and cut a speech. It's like, all right, this is where's Punk coming from, right? And then there was no CM Punk, but he was there. There's a photo even floating around. He was like in the crowd standing there, and he had his hoodie on and everything, all covert. I think he was watching the John Cena AJ Styles match. He had a big smile on his face because, again, Raw is in Perth, so he's probably going to be on Raw Monday night. He was there. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess maybe they'll save it for Monday, but I don't know why you wouldn't. Because we all know they're going to wrestle again, probably at Saturday night's main event, right? We know we're getting the match. Like, as sick as I am of Punk and Rollins at this point, it's been done to death. We know it's coming. So I was surprised they didn't have him jump Seth in that spot right there. But, I guess you could say in kind of a way that time was not on Cody's side. Just didn't work out for him tonight. But the watch paid off for Seth Rollins. A win is a win. He did not need Braun Breaker's help. He did not need Bronson Reed's help. But he got the win over Cody Rhodes. This did not need 30 minutes. This match went 30 minutes. And I did not enjoy this match as much as I did Cena and Styles. I did think it was a strong match, but it did not need to go 30 minutes. It was overly long. I thought that they went a little overboard in a way that just didn't work for me on some of those near falls. Still a strong match. It's just not one of my favorites. I do appreciate that it was one of those rare Vision matches that didn't have all the interference that we've come to expect in the Vision matches. I can't call it a clean win. It wasn't a clean win, but at least we didn't have people running into the match. But Rollins had to win this, especially heading into War Games. Again, assuming the Vision is going to be a part of War Games, because why wouldn't they be? You got to keep the Vision strong going into that show. They did that with Bronson Reed, right? Absolutely the right move. And so Seth Rollins had to win. Cody Rhodes stood to gain nothing. What does Cody gain from beating him a fourth time? Nothing. The story was Seth. He was losing his mind. Cody had gotten under his skin. Cody had gotten in his head about, needing help or Heyman, can he be trusted? Who's really running the show here? And that's been the storyline over the last few weeks. And I'll tell you what I'm happy they didn't do. And they even teased it on, I guess it was yesterday on the kickoff show, where I think Rollins was out there with the Vision, and then he kind of just walked off without them. And I'm like, all right, are we going to get like a swerve, right? Where they want you to think that Seth and Heyman, oh my God, they're on the outs. They're actually going to split these guys up. And then, it's like they interfere. Here's Reed or here's Breaker. And then Seth wins, and they're all cackling as the show goes off the air. I thought there was a decent chance that we might get that. I'm glad they didn't do that. Like the whole ruse, oh, he pulled the wool over your eyes. You actually bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Like, I'm glad they didn't do that, because now the story is still there. There's still potential drama here to be played out within the ranks of the Vision. Remember earlier in the show backstage when Braun Breaker said to Bronson Reed, well, what happens if Cody beats him? And then Heyman came back in and says, I think you know the answer to that question, right? What did he mean by that? They should have Seth Rollins. That should be the first thing in his opening promo on Monday night. That should be absolutely something that he brings up. He should confront Paul Heyman about that and build on that. What did you mean by that? Did you lose faith in me? What about you? Did you lose faith in me? You didn't think I could do it, did you? But what did you mean by that? So again, that's a story angle that's kind of interesting that they could pursue on TV this week. I know why they close with this match. I mean, they wanted to have that parting shot, of the two Crown Jewel winners posing together and then shoot off a bunch of pyro and all that. So I get that. And also, look, this had the real core story out of all of the matches on this show coming into this. This one had a better story than most. Having now seen the show and the match order and how everything played out and the quality of the matches and everything, they should have closed with John Cena and AJ Styles. That's the match that should have ended the show. It was John Cena's last ever international match, last ever match in Australia. It was a match between two, legendary, iconic figures here in the world of wrestling. You knew it was going to be special. And I do feel that the crowd, not that they weren't quiet for the rest of the show, but I do feel like there were moments maybe during the last two matches where they could have been a little more animated than they were. Look, the women went on immediately after that Styles AJ match, or that Styles Cena match. Not an enviable position to be in, but smart, because Rhea, of course, was always going to get a reaction. I just feel like that would have been an appropriate way to close the show and send Cena off, his last match in the country, and just sort of fade to black. But I get it. I get why they wanted to go with this. I thought it was a very good show overall. Much more enjoyable than WrestlePalooza. Zoom says the match that saved the show. I feel like saved is too strong of a word. That implies that without the match, the show would have sucked, which is not true. For me, though, if you take that match out of this card, then to me, this card is only marginally better than WrestlePalooza. It's probably in the same range, maybe like a B- or something like that. Because this really, of all the matches on this card, and there weren't that many of them, of all the matches on this card, the only one that will be memorable months from now is this match. John Cena and AJ Styles. Nobody is going to be talking about or remembering or thinking about Cody and Seth for the Crown Jewel title, or Stephanie and Tiffany for the Crown Jewel title, like, or a tag match with Rhea and EO. Like, no one's going to be talking about that. This is the match that people will look back on when they go over, like, some of John Cena's greatest matches, or AJ Styles' greatest matches, or some of the best matches of 2025 in WWE. And this is a match that will be on that, on that list for most people. You take that match out, yes, it is a much weaker show. But I don't really know that saying it saved the show is, yes, elevated. I say that's a better, Leopard Toe says elevated. That's a better word for it. It elevated the show. Let me take a look at the... I did not get a Twitter poll up. I forgot about that. See, I knew I forgot something. Well, I'm going to guess that most people probably gave this show a thumbs up. Just based on the reaction I'm seeing in the chat here, I think most people are pretty much in agreement with the sentiment that I expressed here. Now, don't forget, Raw on Monday, again, early start, 8 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time on Netflix. I'll have to let you know when I'm going to go live. I'm not going to go live as soon as Raw's over. I'd rather not go live at 11 o'clock at night if it could be avoided. But I don't know what's going on yet. So kind of like today, I'll keep you guys posted on X most likely, or maybe the podcast tomorrow. But I'll let you guys know what's going on with that. Let's take a look at your super chats here. And find out what you guys thought of Crown Jewel. Raw at 8 a.m. is crazy. Yeah, it's Monday morning Raw. You could have Raw with your eggs and bacon. You could have Raw with your coffee in the morning if you drink coffee. Maybe a bagel. Donut. Joseph Stewart says, rest in peace, Diane Keaton. Yes, indeed. She passed away today at the age of 79. Joseph wants to know, what are your 3 favorite scenes in The Dark Knight? Oh my God. In The Dark Knight, my 3 favorite scenes? Well, my absolute favorite scene, maybe in any movie ever, is the interrogation scene. Fucking unbelievable. The tension. Oh, so great. And the splice and going back and forth between the different locations as he's interrogating him. So the interrogation scene, I would say the Joker's pencil trick has to be one. And I don't know, maybe the opening bank heist, maybe? I think the scene on the train, it was a train, right? With the boat, I'm sorry. Not the train. With Zeus would be pretty high up there as well. It's funny how Zeus, Tiny Lister, the late Tiny Lister, actually had a pretty pivotal role in that movie. Joseph says, if he had lived, do you think that Heath Ledger would have returned as the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises? I do. I do think he would have. I don't think he would have been necessarily the main antagonist in the movie. That probably still would have been Bane, but I do think he would have been in that movie. Do you know why Jack Nicholson was in that party picture at the end of The Shining? You know, I saw The Shining many years ago. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember. Joseph says, would you like to see Christian Bale, Anne Hathaway, and Christopher Nolan return and do another Batman movie like a Dark Knight Returns movie in the Nolanverse? No, I'd rather he just sort of leave it alone. I think what he created is sort of a masterpiece all by itself. And I think that probably best to just leave well enough alone. Prince Vegeta. I remember when we were all saying that John Cena was washed up and can't go anymore. Since SummerSlam, he has proved a lot of us wrong. I said it at the beginning of the review, man. I said the last 3 of 4 PLEs, the John Cena match has stolen the show. SummerSlam, Paris, and now this show. The stuff with Brock at WrestlePalooza was fucking terrible, so we don't count that. Joseph Stewart says, how different would The Dark Knight Rises have been if Leonardo DiCaprio played the Riddler in the movie and Bane was not the villain? DiCaprio is the Riddler. It would have been different. Would it have been better? It's hard to say, man. I don't know. I'm trying to picture Leo as the Riddler. I don't know if that's the right fit for him. Have you seen Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder? That is one I did not see. Also, who do you think could have played Harley Quinn in Christopher Nolan's Batman movies? I think Sarah Michelle Gellar would have been perfect in the role, or Julia Stiles. Sarah Michelle Gellar is an interesting one. I think her over Julia Stiles. I think that could have worked. What character did she play in that Scooby-Doo movie? Tommy Colella with the $20 super chat says, that Cena versus AJ match was such a beautiful love story wrestling-wise. Honestly, would say that might be the match of the year. I just loved AJ Styles' face when Alicia announced him, like he was genuinely shocked and laughed.
It's the amazing Gunther. Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
All hail Gunther.
It's a good night when Gunther makes a cameo appearance, and we could thank Bobby's World for that. Say, Bobby, thank you, brother, for the $50 Gunther bomb. Daphne. Did Sarah Michelle Gellar play Daphne in the Scooby-Doo movie? Where were we? Joseph, do you think we are going to get a Roman Reigns versus Uncle Howdy feud in the future, especially with Roman's history with Bray Wyatt? I don't. Buy or sell Joker and Harley Quinn, or Mickey and Mallory Knox from Natural Born Killers. I'm going to buy on Joker and Harley Quinn. I was very young when I saw that Natural Born Killers movie in the theater when it came out, and I was definitely too young to be seeing it. It was, yeah, that was not my father's brightest move. Joseph Stewart says, does Bo Dallas's Uncle Howdy remind you of Heath Ledger's Joker? And was Heath Ledger's Joker an inspiration of the Uncle Howdy character? I see a little bit of it in there, maybe. I don't want to say that it was the inspiration for it, because I don't know if that's true. And there's not enough about the character that, like, it screams like a blatant, copy of the Joker. It's possible that he borrowed elements for it, but I'm going to say no. Joseph says, what are your 3 favorite scenes in The Dark Knight Rises? I think the opening scene with Bane and his men was pretty memorable. Batman's return, when he finally reemerges. And my favorite is when they blow up the football field. when Bane blows up the football field and it just sort of collapses. That was pretty cool. Dry Chicken says the talent did good on the Crown Jewel show. I'm still not watching Raw and SmackDown. They need to shake up the roster, the creative team, and stories. Thank you, brother. Joseph Stewart, did you know that Batman comic Nightfall was the inspiration of The Dark Knight Rises, with Bane breaking Batman's back? I did know that, actually. I knew about Nightfall. Let's reload this here. Get all the latest ones here on the list so you guys can see them. Loving this new format, by the way. I found a way to avoid that other new format that I fucking hated. This is so much better. We have Horrifying Dried Chicken with a $5 super chat. Triple H got to call up Obafemi, Trick Williams, Kalani Jordan, Lash Legend, and Jada Parker. We need some more black wrestlers on the main roster. I think you just named all of them. Like, gotta save some for NXT, brother. You can't be calling them all up at once. I think all of them will eventually make their way to the main roster, but you can't. I mean, are you going to put them all together in a faction? Because that would be even worse. Obafemi, get Obafemi up first. I think Lash Legend will actually do well on the main roster. I would not have said that a year and a half ago, but I do think that she'll get the call sooner than later, I think. There's no reason to rush Kalani, not with what she's doing right now with the TNA stuff. Jada Parker, yeah, Jada Parker probably. But you got to prioritize who, because you don't want to call them all up at once. Joseph says it was announced at New York Comic Con that they are making an animated adaptation of the Batman comic Nightfall. I did not hear that. I had a couple of friends who were actually at Comic Con today, I think, right? Still going on. MGM Ballin with the $9.99 says HOG was a banger last night, Solo. I was the guy who stopped you for a high five and called you Mark Henry with the sharp salmon suit. It was cool to meet you, and I appreciated a minute of your time. I appreciate you coming to the show and saying hello, man. I don't get to see everybody all the time, especially last night. You were there, and you saw how packed it was. I've never seen it that packed before. I couldn't even see the floor. There were so many people. So I'm glad we at least had that moment, at least. But my God, I mean, we had a very unplanned sort of how shall I say it? I don't know, recreation. A very surprising recreation of the infamous chair throwing incident in ECW during our main event last night. It was one of those moments where I'm very happy that we no longer have the commentary desk at ringside. That was scary and crazy and cool, I guess, all at the same time. It was a wild night, to say the least. Holiday 197 says, hey, Solo. If Chris Jericho returns to WWE early next year, I would like to see Jericho and AJ Styles have a match together before AJ retires. Maybe at WrestleMania, if Gunther doesn't face AJ, it could be a good match. Yeah, I don't know, man. If that's AJ's last match against Jericho, like, I think we could do better than that. If you want to do it, do it. I'm not sold on it as a WrestleMania match, though. I'm not saying I can't be convinced, you know, it's all about story at the end of the day, but yes, and Bliss Fan says it would be 10 years since their WrestleMania 32 match. You know, next year is 10 years of AJ Styles in WWE. I mean, he may not be there the entire year, but I think it would be kind of nuts if they don't promote around that. Like 10 years of Styles in WWE. Ragnarok. What's up, brother? If you were booking the main roster debut of Ethan Page and Tony D, what brands would you put them on and who would they feud with first? I don't know about feuding with. I would probably have Ethan on SmackDown, though. I like... They had like a little association with him and Chelsea in NXT, and I feel like having some sort of like Canadian association with them on the main roster. I'm not saying put them together as like a couple, but like I would want them on the same brand. And Chelsea is on SmackDown. I'd like to see Ethan on SmackDown. You could put Tony on Raw. You know, as far as who I would feud Tony with, I'm not high on that gimmick. I'd like to see him tweak it at least in some way. I would probably have him as a heel. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe do something with him in LA Knight, maybe?
And the learning tree.
Bewitching Hour.
Thanks, guys.
The Bewitching Hour. Thank you, brother. Is that Jeremy? That was Jeremy. That was Jeremy Rose. Let's keep going here. We got a bunch of them to get into here. SMG Kobe. Did you see the crowd chant / sing Edge's theme while Triple H did his post interview? I did. I talked about it in the review. If I remember, Triple H let Edge walk because he didn't have any need or plans for him, and now he's the most wanted person for John Cena. Yeah, I don't think Triple H gives a shit. I don't think he cares, honestly. I really do. It is kind of funny, I guess, if you think about it like that. But once Cena has his final match and he's done, no one's going to be clamoring for Edge to come back to WWE TV. Of all the things that Triple H probably cares about or what gets under his skin, I don't think that's probably one of them. But I did see that. Holiday 197 says, thoughts on reports that Cena may challenge Dominic for the IC title at Survivor Series. If it's true, we know Cena is walking into his match as a Grand Slam champion. I hope not. I'll talk more about that on the show tomorrow. I saw the same reports. I think it's unnecessary, honestly. I don't mind the match itself, but, you know, the whole thing about the IC title and everything, I don't think it's needed. Prince Vegeta, 95. I'm patiently waiting for this mega push of Seth Rollins to end. He is insufferable. Great wrestler, but his character sucks. Yeah, I've never been a fan of this whole character with him with the wild, wacky outfits and laughing for no reason like a hyena, and it doesn't do anything for me either. Holiday says it appears they are exploring putting the SmackDown Tag Team titles and US title belts back on the MFTs. If it happens, I still won't take the MFTs seriously. Yeah, I mean, nobody will until they actually take the time to really flesh out their characters more. You could put paint on their faces, but it doesn't change anything. We've got Naima Khan. I always listen to your podcast and fall asleep, so thank you. Okay, all right then. There you go. I guess whatever works. I hope you're not implying that the podcast puts you to sleep. I've had people tell me that the sound of my voice, though, I don't know. I guess it can be calming sometimes, and it helps them sleep at night. I mean, hey, if it does, I'm happy to hear it. Horrifying Dried Chicken says it. That's what he says. Horrifying Dried Chicken says, Kairi. Says, imagine AJ Styles.
Do you feel him, sir?
I do. I feel him. Imagine AJ Styles did the One-Winged Angel on Cena. Or imagine Cena did the GTS and then AA on AJ Styles. Also, it's time for Cody to drop the belt. Hey, Survivor Series is coming up. That would be a good place to shake things up and do a title change. Whether it's Drew McIntyre or Randy Orton. They're going to have the chance to do it. Triple H could do it, or he could play it safe. Mark Martinez. My Cena opponent predictions from a month ago have been correct so far. So next is Dom at Survivor Series and then Gunther at Saturday night's main event. And if a Raw match happens, I predict Sheamus. I would love to see Cena and Sheamus. Not in his final match, but I would love to see it. And there's only 2 more chances to do it. You got Raw in Boston, you got Raw at MSG. If we assume he's wrestling Dom at Survivor Series. Which, by the way, I guess that gives away the outcome of the match on Monday, doesn't it? I think the outcome of the match on Monday was given away the minute that Penta accidentally kicked Rusev last Monday. So I think we can pretty much figure we're going to see Rusev get involved there. But thank you, Mark. Ricky Cornflakes, you look like Mark Henry when the Shield beat him up. Just gotta love the Solomonster. I've gotten a lot of Mark Henry comparisons over the last 24 hours, I will say. Don't worry, I got a lot left in the tank. We got... Who do we got here? Is it Mark? It is Mark. Mark Martinez, what do you think the idea of Cena tapping to Gunther in his last match? Since it's never give up for Cena all of his career, and that being his last match. The thing with Cena, though, I don't see him... It's hard for me to imagine him tapping out. I could see him passing out. But I don't know about tapping out. We have not seen John Cena tap out in a match since 2003. It's been over 20 years. That would be a huge thing if he did, but it would go against everything that character is about. I mean, he's never give up. So, you know, he refuses to give up. He goes out. Referee raises the arm, it drops, and that I could see. I don't know if, it's hard though. I mean, do you beat him? Do you have somebody else beat him and get the rub? Not that Gunther needs the rub, but then that could kind of become his gimmick where he's the guy that goes in there and ends these legends once and for all. He did it with Goldberg. He does it with Cena. Maybe he does it with AJ at WrestleMania next year. Gonna have a lot of very upset people if Cena goes in there in DC and loses. Jeremy Rose, so guessing Survivor Series post-show will be crowdless. Oh, after what happened today? No, they'll just chalk it up to those crazy international fans. I think if it keeps happening where they're kind of like bullying poor Triple H, then yeah, we may end up with... They may have like AI fans behind Triple H. The way things are going with AI today, would we even know the difference? It says Becky gonna go after Stephanie for flirting with Seth at the end of the show. Why didn't CM Punk ruin Seth's celebration? Come on, let's make it believable. Because they had to get the money shot at the end with the 2 Crown Jewel champions posing with their big belts. Yeah, that was it. I'll say this: if the idea is to go to Seth and Punk next, then it was very stupid not to have him attack him there at the end. The Real CS says, would you move Rhea to SmackDown? I think she's needed there more than on Raw. Yeah, I mean, they could definitely use her. You're not wrong about that. Would I do it? I kind of want to see Rhea and Stephanie. I don't know if I would move Rhea. Maybe I'd find somebody else, but I mean, you're not wrong. They could definitely use her on that show. SMG Kobe, what are your current and all-time favorite finishers? I mean, in no particular order. The Sharpshooter. The Razor's Edge was always a favorite of mine. The Crossface Chicken Wing submission was a favorite of mine. Stone Cold Stunner. I think that maybe the most beautiful finishing move to watch is Pax Black Arrow, or when he was Neville, the Red Arrow. The Red Arrow, the Black Arrow, call it whatever you want. That's just a beautiful move. I mean, those are the ones I'll name off the top of my head. Current finishers, though, if you say current ones. Do I have a favorite current finish? It's a good question. I don't think I do in WWE. In AEW, do I have a favorite? No, I don't think I do. I don't think I have that one move that's like, oh, that's my favorite. Not really. Not really. Most finishers aren't even really finishers anymore. You know, maybe that's why. AD says, Solo, thoughts on Roman beating Seth at WrestleMania and in the future drops the belt to Braun, who turns face after the match, becoming officially the guy. Roman beating Seth and then in the future drops the belt. Oh, so you want to put the World Heavyweight Championship on Roman? Yeah, I mean, it would be a big deal though for Breaker if that played out that way. I could get behind that because it will mean more for Braun Breaker then. I could get behind that. Holiday 197, do you think we could see a World Heavyweight Championship match between Rollins and Punk on Raw, given Punk is in Australia? SmackDown had some attraction matches last night. No, I don't see them in, I mean, unless they announce it in advance, I don't think so. I think they're going to probably want to save it for Saturday night's main event. That would be my guess. Horrifying Dry Chicken says, let me tell you how Kairi Sane can calm Asuka's nerves, brother. Kairi gives Asuka brownies with nice edibles and takes her out to Chippendale. Edibles for Asuka. That might actually calm her down. Actually, Asuka on edibles would be kind of entertaining to see how that plays out on TV. Tamatonga Superfan is with us. I'll bet he's excited. Guess who came back on Friday night? The man, the myth, and legend Tamatonga is back in WWE, just in time to be Cena's last opponent. Good misdirect by WWE to let people think it's Gunther. Is that what it is? See, it's a misdirect, everybody. You know, I'll bet that Cena writing in the Bullet Club in AJ's intro on the show tonight is like a little Easter egg, because Tamatonga was a member of Bullet Club. See? Triple H is playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers. I think you may be onto something. Or you just may be on something. But either way, thank you, brother. We got Bobby's World, and look at what Bobby's World dropped on us. Bobby's World dropped a Gunther bomb.
Holy shit.
$50 Gunther bomb. Hey, Solo, thank you for my early birthday wish on your birthday. Since I typically donate to you on your birthday and mine, I think a birthday wish 8 months early is nice. Hey, it's the least I could do. And I'll say it again here. Happy birthday, Bobby's World. Whenever it may be. I hope it's a very happy day. Thank you for the support. Tamatonga Superfan again, $10 super chat. Tamatonga and Tongaloa being back in WWE together has made SmackDown the A show again. That's going to make your Friday nights end with a smile on your face. Yes. It might, actually. It might. Like Jack Nicholson in The Shining when he had the smile on his face. Jeremy with the 12. When Trick gets called up, he needs Booker as his manager or hype man. Coming out with a mic saying his shtick. Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, man. Think it could be very entertaining. Got to get a shucky ducky quack quack in there at some point. Bogus Fan says, keep killing it, Solo. Thank you, Bogus Fan. That's another show I used to watch. Another cartoon I used to watch years ago. Mr. Bogus. Remember Mr. Bogus? And then they made a live-action movie with Gerard Depardieu playing Mr. Bogus. Jeremy Rose, remember when Triple H first took over and everyone was glazing how good the product was, and now things are so much different? Yes, the bloom, as they say, is off the rose. Diego Vasquez, that Bray Wyatt tribute almost made me cry. It was a very nice gesture, and it was a very nice response that it got from the crowd. I'm sure it meant a lot to Bo as well. Rojo Bear 24. Every time I see Seth in the main event, I just think to myself, man, I miss Gunther. Well, the good news is he should be back very soon. Jeremy says, do you think Jay versus Roman is happening soon? If so, do you think... Well, no, Roman doesn't want to see them until Christmas. Says, if so, do you think Roman wants to put him over so that he can take over the tribal chief character because Roman has one foot out the door? He does kind of feel like he has one foot out the door, but he's not going anywhere yet. So no, I don't think they're building to that just yet. If they're building to it at all, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. And if they do, then I hope it's a hell of a lot better than that tribal combat garbage we got at SummerSlam 2 years ago. We got Prince Vegeta, who says, if you had the pen, who would you have picked as the first British WWE World Champion? Davey Boy Smith, William Regal, or Wade Barrett? Would have been not Wade Barrett. It would have been William Regal during that period where he was, I think he was the general. Was he the general manager? Yeah, I think he was the GM during that period. It was the period where he was likely going to end up with the World Heavyweight title. And he flunked a test, and then that was it. Like, that was one infraction too many. And he fucked himself over. It was his own fault. But him, even as WWE champion, World Heavyweight champion, whatever, I would say Regal during that period could have had at least a short run with it. The Juliet says, rest in peace, Diane Keaton. Jeremy says, Solo, you can change one thing in current day wrestling. What do you change? Get rid of the what chant. Get rid of the what chant. And if you do chant what during one of these shows, you get an electric shock to your nipples. That'll shut him down real quick. That might not be illegal, though. Rojo Bear 24. I haven't watched Raw ever. We could just end the sentence there. I've never seen a single episode of Monday Night Raw. He said, I haven't watched Raw ever since Seth Rollins won the World Heavyweight Championship. Thank God for Monday Night Football. Well, that's why you have me, so I can keep you up to date on what you're missing. AD says the story will be Roman doesn't care about the world title, but takes away what Seth took from him. It is a karma story. Yeah, I mean, I could see that basically being the story around a WrestleMania match between those two. It's not about what I need. It's, what the company needs, or it's... Well, actually, you know what? For this Roman character, he doesn't give a shit about the company. He would be more selfish about it. It's like, I haven't forgotten what you did to me in Philadelphia 2 years ago. Yeah, I could see that. And Tamatonga Superfan, we are now on the path for Tamatonga and Tongaloa to win the tag team belt at WrestleMania 42. And then set up a year-old build. I think you mean year-long build. Set up a year-old build to a singles match at WrestleMania 43 in the main event. Saudi Arabia is a top 3 fan base for the Tongas. Well, I'll tell you what, if His Excellency over there wanted Tama Tonga against Tongaloa, Triple H would kiss the ring and give him the match that he wants. So if he's as big of a Tongans fan as you say he is, I put nothing past these people. And Diego Vasquez, what Cena dream match has delivered? Or just with AJ? You mean, you talking about this year? I mean, the Cena Punk match was pretty good. Yeah, the Cena Orton match was much better than I expected it to be. It's not like my favorite match of the year or anything. So I don't know if you're just referring to matches, because that's a short list, you know? You're just talking about matches this year. Yeah, I mean, AJ would be, like, of the quote-unquote dream matches, AJ would be number one. Good shit. Thank you, Diego. And I actually see just now, I don't know why I just noticed, but we had a bonus goal going in the chat, and we have hit that goal. And the main goal, we're at 463 likes. Can we get that to 500 before we get out of here live? That's going to be up to you guys. While you work on that, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
And Dr. Scorpio is with us. Dr. Scorpio is with us. He says, for a second, I thought you were reading random comments. Well, technically you are, but didn't see the super chat. LOL. Thanks for watching, so I don't have to. Brother, it's literally on the screen. There's a whole list of them. Thank you, Dr. Scorpio. It's always good when we get a double be the booker, isn't it? It's always good when we get to see those old tag team belts, too. And there you see the Steiner brothers. Rick and Scott. Isn't that the senator from the state of Florida? Isn't that Rick Scott? Just kind of took the two names and put them together. Can't trust somebody with two first names. The Steiner brothers are going to be taking on the two dudes with attitude. This is when they had all the gold. You talk about belt collectors. These are the original belt collectors right here. Shawn Michaels and Diesel. I don't think Scott Steiner is going to, or Rick Steiner for that matter, is going to be taking Shawn Michaels shit from 1995. Shawn Michaels better be on his best behavior. That would be a hell of a match, though. Diesel and Michaels against the Steiner brothers. It's a great pick right there. All right, our women's match is going to have the lovely Maurice. Maurice. Maurice against Dana Brooke. Well, look, we wish all the best to Dana Brooke. She had to abruptly vacate her Impact TNA now. TNA Knockouts Championship for reasons that were not disclosed. Hopefully the situation is not serious, be that as it may. This is not a match that... this is not a match I would book on my card. Sorry. That's how it goes. I gotta be honest. Tawab says, I don't trust Neil Patrick Harris. 3 first names. That's even worse. Oh my God. 3 first names. We have Yokozuna as one half of our main event. Former 2-time WWF champion. Yokozuna against The Undertaker. See, but this is Ministry Undertaker. We never got to see Yokozuna against Ministry Undertaker. But there was just something about those Undertaker-Yokozuna matches that I have a soft spot for. I actually enjoyed watching them have those matches and wrestle together. That's right. Grant says BSK lives. That's right. BSK lives. They got the tats, man. It's a brotherhood. All right, you unlocked round number 2. This should be interesting. We go from the Bone Street Crew and the Undertaker to Buried Alive. Staying with the Undertaker motif here. Buried Alive match. We're going to have ourselves a tag team Buried Alive match. That's what we're going to do. And there has, in fact, been a tag team Buried Alive match on SmackDown many years ago, and I actually remember enjoying that match greatly. So, we have Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman. Hulk Hogan in a Buried Alive match. Who's getting buried? And I do mean buried. Let's find out. Who are the poor schmucks who are getting buried by the Hulkster here in this match? Oh, this is going to be the mother of all burials, is what this is going to be. Hulk Hogan's going to take one look at Fandango and say, that don't work for me, brother. Which is too bad, because I'm a Tyler Breeze mark, man. When he came back to NXT recently, he looked like he had stepped out of 2014. That's the Tyler Breeze, man, that I was a big fan of. But Hogan's going to take one look at these two guys, and he may not even show up that night. He may no-show the event. Rodman is definitely not showing up for that. Fandango has no chance. Actually, Fandango shouldn't show up. All right, our next stipulation. Oh, for fuck's sake. We just picked this the other night. What is with the Punjabi prison stipulation? My God. You know, I ended up in one of these once. What was it? Me against Goldberg or something in a Punjabi prison match? Be the Booker it definitely had it out for me that night. Do we put the poor ladies in the Punjabi prison, or should we do the men's match and make that Punjabi prison? All right, we'll do it with the men. We'll spare the ladies the indignity of being a part of this just absolute monstrosity. Oh, no, that's right. Oh, my God. How could I forgot? It was me against Khali. That's right. We landed on Punjabi prison for a fucking Khali match, and I was his opponent that night. Just buzz the match. No, I want to see. Who's going to be in this match. Ravishing Rick Rude is going to be in a Punjabi prison match. See, I feel like he can make this work. It really all depends on who he's in the ring with. Ravishing Rick Rude can make almost anything work. Ravishing Rick Rude against Mark Briscoe in a Punjabi prison. You know what? You're going to call me crazy for this. I'm actually going to give that the bell. Because I think that these two could find a way to make this work and to make this entertaining. I really do. I'm gonna put my faith in these two. I think they could pull it off. Am I still in Be the Book? Oh, I'm in there somewhere. I'm still in there. I haven't demoted myself yet. And we're going to end with a traditional steel cage match. We go from the crazy cage to the regular steel cage. Well, I would say this is a little bit better here for the ladies. So I feel better about this for them. But let's see. Here we go. The women get the main event here, which is a rarity here in Be the Booker. We have Gail Kim. You know what? I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to make a deck. We're shaking things up. We are shaking things up here in Be the Booker for the first time. We're going to have ourselves an intergender main event. We have Gail Kim on one side of this match. This is a steel cage match, mind you. Okay? We're going to have Gail Kim in an intergender main event. This is going to make things very interesting. Gail Kim against William Regal in a steel cage match. How do you like that? The tag team match ruined it from being a clean sweep, but Gail Kim and William Regal, two great professional wrestlers. You put them in a cage, and you know what? I think they'd have a pretty damn good match. Everyone's saying Kenny Omega. Can you imagine if I actually landed on him? How do you like that? You never know what you're going to get here and Be the Book. Oh, we're going to be shaking things up a little bit more, too, once I actually get to all the updates I want to do. I just haven't had time lately with all the work I've had to do. But we're going to be updating this. We're going to be revamping it. But, yeah, every now and then you might, you might get some intergender. I mean, WWE doesn't have the balls to do it, but you might get an intergender match or two. You never know. You never know. Horrifying dried chicken with flavor says, does Regal have the brass knucks? It's a steel cage match. So if he's got them tucked away in his tights, it's totally legal. So sure. Dry Chicken says, delete one horror movie. Scream, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, or The Thing. A Nightmare on Elm Street. I wasn't a big Freddy guy. I like all the other ones though. Mark Martinez, WrestleMania 43, Saudi Mania Hall of Fame is going to be star-studded, isn't it? LMAO with Cena.
I am the learning tree.
And the learning tree. You know.
Thanks, guys.
Very possible. If he comes back next year, that they wait, and then in 2027, they actually do put Jericho in the Hall of Fame. It's actually very possible. He says, Cena, Vince McMahon, and the match to induct Rock versus Austin, probably all going in. Saudis, they're going to get what they want, man. If they want it, they'll get it. Cameron Spencer, before Undertaker retired, I wanted to see him face Ric Flair in a WrestleMania retirement match with Vince as the referee. Would you have been down for that? No. Thank you, Cameron. Dried Chicken Without Flavor says Maurice against Ash by Elegance. Loser has to pose for pictures with Art the Clown. Yeah, I should point out that in that one, it was Dana Brooke and not Ash by Elegance, if that matters. Jeremy Rose says, name your Mount Rushmore of heels. I don't have a Mount Rushmore of heels, but I could tell you that some of the people that would be on like a top short list for me, Vince McMahon is the greatest in many real life. I think mirrors fiction in many ways, but the greatest wrestling heel of all time is Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon. So he would have to be on there. Yeah, to do it in like a Mount Rushmore, like it's tough. But Vince would be number one. And then, I mean, when you look at, top heels, I mean, again, I grew up on guys like DiBiase who would buy people off, and kick basketballs away from little kids when he promised to pay them money, and they 15 times and then kick it away at 14. Like, what a dick, Jake Roberts is a heel, one of the greatest heels I've ever seen. As over as he was as a babyface, like evil heel Jake from like 1991 into 92 is right there at the top of the list. Not for nothing, Triple H was a great heel too. I'm not even talking about the Reign of Terror. I'm talking about when he was like still in his physical prime, like 2000, 2001. I'm not saying he'd be on my Mount Rushmore necessarily, but he was a damn good heel, during that period. Yeah, modern day, you think modern day wrestling, MJF. Pretty damn high up on that list. Yeah, Ric Flair, of course. Suit Jericho. That's, or as I call it, No Country for Old Men Jericho. Anton Sugar Jericho. Death Scythe, I hope CM Punk and AJ Styles are the first two entrants and the final two in the Royal Rumble, because it feels like the only way we're getting any kind of singles match between them at this point. That actually would not be a bad final two. Let's say Punk is going to win the Rumble. You have AJ with him at the very end. And given that he has announced that he's going to be retiring, you could have people buy into the idea that, oh my God, maybe AJ is going to win the Rumble. And he'll get one last championship opportunity at WrestleMania. Like, people, I think, would buy into that. Dry Chicken says Gail Kim against William Regal with the Jeepers Creeper as the special guest referee. Good to see he's in the Halloween spirit. Spirit Halloween. Tactical Butt Cheek 93. Still one of the best names. Calling it now, Cena's next opponent is getting a stunner, rock bottom and or tombstone pile driver. He already had an opponent tonight that got a tombstone pile driver. He literally gave AJ a tombstone pile driver. Solomonster is the GOAT. Yeah, but the thing is, like, a rock bottom, yes. A stunner, I don't see a stunner because he never wrestled Austin. I feel like he's pretty much keeping it to guys that he's worked with before. So it wouldn't be a stun. He has taken a stunner, though. He took a stunner once on one of those Tribute to the Troop shows. Actually, it might have been in 2003. It might have been actually like right at the beginning part of his career. I want to say 2003 is when they started doing them. I think that might have been the first one. You like that name, huh? Tactical Butt Cheek. Oh, man. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me here a little bit later than I wanted to go. I was hoping to go earlier, but the day got away from me. So I said, all right, we'll go. We'll go in prime time. It's all good. The next time I am live with you, and Retro and Michael, I'm going to get to your chats here in a moment. But the next time I'm live with you, I am shooting to go live tomorrow night after Bound for Glory. I was live after Slammiversary. I would like to be live after Bound for Glory. It is their biggest show of the year. They have Mike Santana going for the TNA World Championship in the main event. I could see him getting an assist from Ricky Saints. Not that I think he should need an assist from the NXT champion, but the NXT champion had Trick Williams bail on him during the Invasion special on Tuesday. I could see Ricky getting some revenge on Trick by coming out, and he could distract him. He could prevent Trick from cheating. It could be anything. Either way, I think we're getting a new TNA World Champion. We got the Hardys and the Dudleys. One final table, winner take all match. Hardys, by the way, the new HOG tag team champions. Kalani Jordan, I believe, is defending her Knockouts Championship against Indy Hartwell. You've got Leon Slater defending the X Division Championship against Javon Evans, and a bunch of other matches. So I'm aiming to do that, but of course I have a podcast to do tomorrow first. So that's episode 933 of The Sound Off. Hey, Havili. Look at this. Havili, 28 months of channel membership, says, "What up, Solomonster? Shout out from Brisbane, Australia. How are you doing today? Thought on the rumor War Games teams. You are the GOAT." Havili, were you at the show? I know Brisbane. See, Australia is a gigantic country. So I don't know offhand how far Brisbane is from Perth, but I'm assuming it's many hours away. So I don't know if you were at the show, Havili. I'm going to assume you were not. I'm doing well. I'm a little tired, but I hope you were doing very well. As far as the War Game stuff, I'm going to get into that on the Sound Off tomorrow. So tune into the podcast and we'll address all the rumors for Mr. Meltzer this week. He dropped some news. We'll talk about the rumored lineups for War Games and a bunch of other things. Michael Jensen with 49 months of channel membership. That Asuka super chat has hilariously scared the crap out of me repeatedly since its arrival. Oh, good. So I'm not the only one then. That's good to know. And Retro KOH with a member chat, 31 months. Happy belated birthday. How was the HOG show? I heard the Hardys won their third set of belts on the show. Well, technically fourth. They have those fourth rope belts from the other promotion. It was a wild show. Again, I'll talk briefly about it tomorrow as well. It was ended up being our biggest show of the year in many ways. And there were a lot of wild things that happened last night. And if you didn't see it, the replay is up on Triller. So you can check it out there with all my esteemed commentary. It's always the best part. Let's be honest. Hey, Dr. Scorpio, when did Hologram join the Callis family? That would be El Clone. So you got to get it right. It's El Clone. Julian with a $20 super chat. Tiffany against Bianca is a WrestleMania caliber match, but can WWE hold off on it that long given the lack of challengers for Tiffany? I mean, as long as Bianca's been out for, are we even going to have her back in time for WrestleMania? I think that's the better question. She broke some fingers. She's been out since April. It's now October. I don't know. I don't know when she's coming back. Rumble, maybe? Or does she make it back in time for a women's War Games match at Survivor Series? Hey, there's Triple H. Speaking of burying, there he goes. There he goes. Dig up the dirt. And Dry Chicken says, CM Punk is going to crash out tonight. The Cubs are out. Yeah, but is he that big of a Cubs fan as compared to the Chicago hockey? I just forgot the name. Is it the Blackhawks? He's a big Blackhawks fan, isn't he? I thought that was like his main sport. Well, if there's one thing that CM Punk is not known for, it's crashing out. Because he would never do that. Dr. Scorpio, oh Lord, don't tell me Tony Khan taking a page from Undertaker against Undertaker in 94 with hologram. That's the whole point of the character, though. El Clone is supposed to be the evil Lucha twin, basically. I mean, that's basic. Sin Cara and Sin Cara Blanco. You know, he was going to come in. He was going to cost Hologram his 34-0 undefeated streak, and they were going to probably have a match at Wrestle Dream. And now that's all out the window because Hologram suffered a serious knee injury, and now El Clone debuted as one of the 29 members of the Don Callis family, and he will just fade into the background. But I said, let him amass his own 34-0 record that nobody will give a shit about. And when Hologram comes back, then you can match him up. I've already put more thought into this, though, than I should have. Like, of all the things to put thought into, that's not really one of them that I'm too concerned about. Yeah, the Chicago Blackhawks. I know he's a big Blackhawks fan. Unfortunately for us in New York, the only team that might actually be able to save New York from the doldrums are the Knicks, because everybody else sucks. Anyway, thank you guys for all the support tonight. We got episode 933 tomorrow and potential Bound for Glory review. And I will keep you abreast. I love that word. I will keep you abreast of my Raw plans for streaming on Monday. Be well. Stay safe. And I will see you back here real soon for more Sound Off live here on YouTube. Hit that like button on your way out. And I will see you next time for more Sound Off. Until then, take care, guys.
Ha 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 ha!